Hey beautifuls, thank you so much for joining me today. Welcome back to my channel. This is Angel from Simply Angel here. For this tutorial today, I'll be showing you guys how to crochet these nice, beautiful, elegant, fashionable hats. Now as you can see, I have two right here. I'm going to just be showing you guys how to do this one in purple. This one I did off camera, but as you can see, they're exactly the same, except it's a smaller size for a 3-year-old and this is for a 6-year-old. Just one thing to note as well is that I did the buttons as an extra, so the video actually doesn't include how to add these buttons, but really there's nothing to them but just to show to sew them on. So as you can see here, they're actually not attached to the whole hat, they're actually just as a decoration, and I added these two here. You don't have to for your project if you're going to be making one, or you can, and also it's an option to have it detached from the back like that, or you can actually sew it through and through so that this hat is not going to be unfolded like this. That is all up to you. Now I will just quickly bring the matching scarves into the focus here. So I actually made these two scarves on my last video, so if you haven't seen them, go ahead and check these out. Now these are matching scarves for the hats that I'm making on this video. Now another thing is when I completed these off on camera, I did not have tassels added to them, and I did not have buttons either. And I actually asked some of my very experienced crochet friends what I need to do to kind of personalize and make these a little bit nice and playful for kids, and I got a lot of recommendations to add tassels or maybe something like buttons, and this is where the idea of the buttons came in. So when you do see this video, you will actually not see that I completed the scarves with the tassels and the scarves, as I ended up doing these as an addition off camera after I was done the video. So I hope that's okay. Again, there's nothing too special about this. I just got some nice buttons that I got from Amazon, and I just kind of sewed them on, so they're not actually, so this is just, I did two on the pockets like that. The same thing with the purple one, I did two on the pockets like that, and they're not closing anything, so they're just simply for decoration. The same thing with the tassels, I just added the tassels so that they're a little bit nice and playful for kids. As well, I did not do that on video, so you can always check my previous video where I did a tassel to see how you can do that. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so before we continue, these are the items you will need for your beanie. Okay, so this is the same color that I used for the scarf, exactly the same. So I will put all the information in the description box. You're going to need your crochet hook. So for the scarf, I used a 5mm crochet hook. I have gone up by 5.5, and that's just because I want the hat to be a little bit loose. So I'm going to just up to the 5.5mm crochet hook. And of course, you're going to need your darning needle to sew it closed at the end, as well as your scissors to cut your strands at the end. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so to get started, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to do a slip knot. Okay, and this is how I do my slip knot, right like that. Okay, and then we're going to do a chain 50, chain up 50. So 1, 2, 3, oops, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so that's my chain 50 right here. Okay, and now you're going to turn your work like this so that the front of the chain is facing you. Okay, and now we have that. As you can see here, this is the last chain, it's the last space from the hook, and in this second one we're going to do a half double crochet. Okay, and half double crochet, you go like this. So you yarn over, go into your stitch, bring the yarn back, you have 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull all through all 3, and then you continue to do this all across your chain here. And just if you're a new crocheter, make sure you're paying attention so that you're not skipping a stitch by mistake, or putting 2 stitches in the same stitch, or 2 half double crochets in the same stitch by mistake. Okay, and you can always just kind of look at your work every now and then to make sure everything looks good. So as you can see, that's a half double crochet stitch right there. Okay, and so like I said, we're going to do this all across this chain. So go ahead and do that. When you get to this end here, come back and I'll show you how to turn and continue. So this is the first row we're working on. So finish your first row and I'll see you in a bit. Okay loves, so this is the end of this first row. So I will just show you guys that there's one more left here. It's usually very common to forget that there's one more because it just looks like a tail, but there's actually one more stitch at the end here that we need to make sure we go into, because otherwise they will just have a tail that is not necessarily looking good at the end. Okay, so that's the end of our first row here. So this is eventually, this hat is going to be, you know, kind of connected like this, but for now we're going to be working up like that. Okay, so for the second row we're going to do a chain 2, turn your work, and then the exact same thing we did with the scarf is we go ahead and do our half double crochet in the back loop only, and you go ahead and you start from the very first stitch here. So you're not skipping the first stitch, you're doing it from the very first stitch. You go ahead and do your half double crochets in the back loop like that. Okay, so this is pretty much row 2 is going to be repeat of this project until you get your desired size of the hat that you're looking for. But yeah, so but I want to show you one more thing. This is something that is very common if you watch my videos, and I'm doing this kind of stitch where I go through the back loop of either the double crochet, half double crochet, single crochet, whatever it is that I'm doing, that I'm going into the back loop only. I have a different way of doing the last stitch. Like I don't actually go into the back loop of this final stitch here. I go through both like this. Okay, so when you work with this, you will do the back loop, or you will do your half double crochets in the back loop only all the way to here, and then the final stitch you go through both. Then you turn, you do your chain 2 turn, and you repeat. So don't forget that, because for me I find that it gives me a straight edge, so my work doesn't look like it's kind of folding or bending, or it doesn't look straight. I want my work to look exactly straight like this when I'm done with it. So that's why I do that final stitch going through both loops as opposed to going through just the back loop. Okay, so that's a quick tip there, so don't forget to do that. And now I will let you guys do these on your own. So I'm not sure exactly how many rows I will do, probably about 50 or so, but I'm going to build up my hat using this exact same stitch over and over. So it's a repeat of this second row, and when I have my desired number of rows, I will come back and I'll show you guys what to do next. So go ahead and pause the video here, build up your hat, and I'll see you guys in a few. Okay, see you in a bit. Hey loves, welcome back. So I will stop here now because I think I have enough to be able to make a hat for a 6-year-old. So as you can see, this is how long it is. I'll just show you here. So this is how we built up. We started our project right here, and we went up like this all the way to here. So I have about 44 rows total. I will not bother counting them with you right now, but that's how many rows I have. And so this is my 44th row. And so what I will do is I will cut the yarn right here. Okay, so that's we're done with that part of it. And then what I'll do is I will just fasten these off here like that. Okay, so now we're going to put our hook away as well because we don't need it right now. And as you can see, okay, so this is how it looks like. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just flip it over like this, because if you look at the first row that we had here, it's bending inwards, and this way it's bending inward. It's bending inwards like this. So when I fold it to sew it together, I will fold it like this, so this side is like that. Okay, You don't have to do it like this, but it's my preference that I do it like this. So the first thing that we're going to do is we fold it into two like that, and we line it up really nice and straight, just like that. The same thing on this edge here, and so we know our work is completely straight. We just press it down to make sure it's straight there. And then what we will do is, I already put my yarn in the darning needle like so, okay. And so what we're going to start doing is we're going to start closing this side shut, and you can either start it from this end or this end. Either way, it's gonna work just fine. And because I'm right-handed, I'm going to start off on this side. Actually, a good tip, just so you guys know, is depends on where you want the hat to be open. So if this is going to be the entrance of your hat, then it's recommended, or at least I think it should be good, if you sew from here to here, because you're gonna need to sew this side shut as well, and vice versa. So if you want this side to be your open side, then it's best to sew from here to here, and then you'll be able to shut this and having this side open. So for me, both sides look pretty okay, so I'm not too picky as to what side I think is the one I want open, but just for entertainment purposes, I will have this side as the open side of the hat, and this side is where I'm going to be closing it, okay? So I will end up sewing it in like this, okay? So now that we have decided where to start our sewing, you're going to take your darning needle that already has your yarn attached to it, and you're going to make sure you line up this edge really nice and straight, and you're going to just kind of go right at the edge like this, and you're going to start sewing right there, okay? Now I'm going to pull it as far as I can go like this. I'm going to take the string that was there from the beginning, and I'm going to knot those two together just to kind of fasten it so it doesn't come off, okay? So we're going to do it like that. And now that it's nice and tight, we can pull this even tighter. And then we're going to go ahead and continue sewing our work all down here. Now what I do is I take the outside of this side and sew it. Actually, I'm sorry, I take the inside of the stitch and I go through both on the other side, just like that. And don't bother dragging these along, but you can if you want to. The two yarns that are hanging, I will just end up cutting those off at the end. I will leave them there. Okay, so you're going to go ahead and continue to do that. So you're going to go into the next stitch, which is this one here, and we're going to go into the inside stitch and then go through both on the other side. And these two hanging yarns here are going to be a pain, so what I'll do right now is just snap those off, just cut them off, because it will make it easier for us to work and we don't have to worry about them kind of tangling and things like that. So take our scissors and we just cut those two off like that, and then we'll put that away and then we'll continue, okay? Okay, so we have come to the end of sewing. It's shut on this side here. So as you can see here, this is where we have sewn from right here, and we came all the way down here. So as you can see, the point is to not make it obvious that you have connected it here, and based on what you can see here, you can't see at all that it looks like I connected it there, which is a good thing. Okay, now we go back to just kind of looking at it like this. So your hat should start to take shape like that, okay? And now we have to close this side shut because this is where the head is gonna go. So we have to make sure we close this side. So we still have our string connected right here with the darning needle, so you're not taking that off, and this is where I last went through here. And so what we will do is we'll just kind of turn this like this. This is the hole we're trying to shut. And what I do, and don't bother with this string here, we will eventually get it out. But what I do again, like I did on the other side, is kind of tie this with this here, because you don't want to pull it and then it's gonna pull that section of this sew in. So we just kind of tie it like that. Now it's kind of secure. And then what we do is, or at least what I do, you could join it the way you like to join it, but I like to fold it like this. Hopefully you can see this on camera. And my string is right here, and what I'll do is I'll just kind of pick some yarn up here and go through it like this, and I go around. I do the same right there, and so my yarn is right here, and I'll go through just like that, somewhere there. Oops, there you go. So I'm kind of folding it in like this to bring the space close. And the first round that I use like this is a little bit still rough, so you're just kind of doing a rough connection here, but you'll do a little bit more in just a minute. Okay, something like that. And then if you really pull it through, okay, so as you can see, if you really pull it through, you're connecting these areas like this. But the more detail comes when you have it like this, and you pull it, and now you just kind of go across this whole thing and just kind of connect it to the other side like this, and you pull, you go from here to there, and you pull. Okay, so the whole point is to bring the full top of this hat sewn in, so that the whole top is going to bunch in like this. There you go. So as you can see, starting to kind of, everything is kind of bunching in, but you want to make sure you really bring everything together, so that when you flip your hat over, because you're gonna have to flip this hat over, you want to make sure there's nothing so showing. Okay, so as you can see here, this is how it's starting to look. They're closed in. Something we need to do right here. So as you can see, I have something hanging here, so I'm going to connect that here. Just gonna bring it in like that. I'm going to sew that here like this. And this part here is where you're probably going to do most of your freestyling, because there's no particular technique that says you must do it like that, but just have to make sure you're shutting the top of the hat nice and clean. All right, so and you're just gonna check the edges here to make sure there's none that is not fully sewn in. Okay, so it looks like we're good, but just for security reasons, we're just going to do a few more here. This is for a kid, so I don't want it to come apart because they're too rough with it, or they're playing and they're pulling, because you know it's kids, they don't usually, they're not too careful with their properties. So maybe not all kids, I don't want to assume that all kids are like that, but it's always good to make sure if it's something for a kid, it's more on the secure side. Okay, so now that I have it like that, I can just kind of find a way to weave in my yarn here so that I can eventually cut it off. There, I'm going to cut it off right here. I'm going to tie that. Just one more time. I'm just doing a knot on it to make sure that it's not gonna come off. Now that we have that, I'm going to cut it off here. And don't worry if there's one sticking out like that. It's the end that is going to eventually be the inside of the hat. And this is the other string that was hanging. So it would have been probably smart to cut it off before this, but oops, there you go. You live and learn. So if you're at that spot, it's best to cut it off before you get here. Okay. All right. So now that we have our hat like this, okay, this is where the head is gonna go. We're going to reach our hand through it like this and pull it the opposite way like that. Okay, so this is the top of the hat here. Okay, and this is going to be where the hat is folding in, and just kind of play with it. As you can see, that there's a little bit of more work that we can do on this side. And so what I do is I take my darning needle again, and I just join this top part a little bit more like that, just to have it more nice and rounder. And we're going to do a pom-pom on top here, so it's going to look much nicer and neater. Okay, so now that I have that, I'm going to cut the yarn right here, tie that up. Okay, there you go. And then we'll cut these off as well. There you go. So I'm going to put my darning needle away. We don't need it anymore. I'm going to bring back my hook, and as you can see, I already did my pom-pom here. And by the way, I'm doing a video very soon to show you guys how to do a pom-pom. I used the Clover machine or pom-pom maker, so I will do a video very soon to show you guys how to use that to make your pom-poms. Okay, so this is what I have here. Okay, so I'm going to bring my pom-pom through. So I'm going to take my crochet hook, and in the hat, just like this, I'm going to put my hand through. That will bring in one of the strings of the pom-pom. So this is the hook right here, and I'm going to lace the pom-pom string on it, pull it to the other side. Okay, just like this. So I have the string right here, and then I'm going to take the other pom-pom string, which is this guy here, and I'm going to do the same. I'm going to put it right there. So I'm going to go back in with my crochet hook, and right about somewhere here, I'm going to bring it in to the other side as well, just like that. Okay, so now I have both strings on the other side. Okay, so the pom-pom is just on top like that, and I'm going to flip it like this, and the two strings are here, and I'm just going to tie these guys together nice and tight. And you want to make sure your pom-pom is sitting well on top of the hat as well. Okay, and you tie it nice and tight. And you can do a few loops of this just to make sure it doesn't come apart like that, and then you can cut it off right there. Okay, okay, so this is how your hat looks. It looks super long, but it's going to be folded in like this, just like that. Okay, so now that it's folded in, it looks nice and about the right size. Okay, so this is how it's gonna look like. The pom-pom is right here. Okay, so this is for the 6-year-old, like I said. I did make one off camera for the 3-year-old. As you can see here, it's a little bit of a smaller size. Okay, and the good thing with this is if they need to undo it like this, they can, and it makes a big nice puffy hat. If they maybe have braids in and they want to make sure they're covered fully, they can unfold it, but if they don't, it's just something that they can wear like that. Okay, so these are the hats that I'm making to match these two scarves that I made in my previous video. So as you can see, this one here goes with this hat, and this one here goes with this. Okay, so that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you so much again for watching this video. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe, and I'll see you on my next video.